Torn asunder by economic inequality, the desperate need for power, be it nuclear or fossil, a subterranean reptilian humanoid that kills 25% of the global population in the first 26 hours of their emergence. Big guns, bigger monsters, and even bigger stakes. That's pretty much the premise of Gears of War, and its live-action adaptation is going to be directed by David Leitch, the man behind hits like Fall Guy, Bullet Train, Hobbs and Shaw, Deadpool 2, and even an uncredited directorial effort in the first John Wick movie. On the other hand, we have John Spaihts as the screenwriter, who has written the two Dune movies, The Darkest Hour and Doctor Strange, to name a few, and is currently working on the third Dune film. Needless to say, while one brings in slick action on a large scale, the other brings depth to a story and creates characters we care about. In this video, we're going to tell you everything there is to know about the upcoming and confirmed Gears of War movie, from the latest updates to the story and release dates to the casting calls. But before we begin, please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Those two small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these marvelous videos in the future. With that out of the way, let's begin. Movie plot and story overview. The Gears of War universe centers on humanity's fight for survival on the war-torn planet Serra. The story follows Delta Squad, a band of battle-hardened soldiers led by disgraced Sergeant Marcus Phoenix. 14 years after a catastrophic event known as Emergence Day, when the monstrous Locust Horde burst from underground and nearly exterminated civilization, Marcus and his squad are tasked with a last-ditch mission to save humanity. These infantry comrades, a ragtag crew bound by brotherhood, face relentless combat against the Locust. Speaking of those guys, they're basically a race of subterranean, genetically altered beings that resemble huge reptiles. Every day is a desperate struggle as Delta Squad fights in ruined cities and dank tunnels across an increasingly hostile Serra. The tone is obviously gritty and post-apocalyptic, verging on the melancholic, especially because humanity is on the brink and only the camaraderie of soldiers like Marcus and his best friend Dominic Dom Santiago keeps hope alive. Fans can expect the film to have some of the iconic elements from the games, like the roar of chainsaw-mounted lancer rifles, the terrifying emergence of Locust warriors from underground hollows, and the determination, or maybe the somber determination, of soldiers making a stand against overwhelming odds. Oh, and if we're to believe the producer, the movie will be an independent story based in the Gears of War universe, which only makes things more exciting. Latest production updates, 2025. The Gears of War movie is finally gaining real momentum in 2025 after years of false starts. The latest updates confirm that the film script is actively in development. Kelly McCormick, a producer on the project, revealed in August 2025 that she and her team are in the screenwriting phase. John Spaihts, known for his work on Denis Villeneuve's Dune, was hired as the screenwriter, and he's hard at work penning down the story. "We're writing it right now with John Spaihts, and we're really excited about it," McCormick said recently. According to her, there's a lot of energy from Gears of War Studio, the Coalition, and from Netflix, fueling the project's development. This collaboration with the Coalition ensures the filmmakers have direct access to the source material's lore and tone as they shape the script. Another major update in 2025 is that David Leitch is officially on board to direct the movie. Leitch, known for high-octane action films like Deadpool 2, Bullet Train, Hobbs and Shaw, Atomic Blonde, and more, was confirmed as the director earlier this year. He and Kelly McCormick, who, by the way, is his producing partner and wife, are producing the film under their 87 North Productions banner. Leitch's attachment has fans excited as he brings extensive action filmmaking experience and a strong stylistic vision. With Leitch at the helm and Spaihts penning the script, the Gears of War adaptation has a strong team leading it. Production timeline challenges. Adapting Gears of War hasn't been a quick mission, and the project has faced a number of timeline challenges on its road to the screen. Even now, with script writing underway and a director attached, the timeline to actually produce and release the movie remains lengthy and uncertain. One immediate challenge is syncing the film with the broader Gears franchise schedule. The Coalition is planning to release the next Gears of War game, titled Gears of War E-Day, in 2026. Initially, there was a hope that the movie might be ready to launch alongside this new game to capitalize on cross-promotion, a coordinated emergence day of sorts for both game and film. However, Kelly McCormick has confirmed that this won't be possible. "We won't hit that release date," she admitted, regarding the 2026 game launch. In other words, the film won't be completed in time to debut simultaneously with the new game. Missing that window is a bit of a setback in terms of marketing opportunities. Additionally, the production timeline is inherently challenging because Gears of War is a large-scale, effects-heavy action project. From writing the script to casting the right actors to the extensive visual effects needed to bring the locust creatures and war-torn landscapes of Sarah to life, simply everything is going to take time. The team wants to get it right rather than rush it. David Leitch and his crew will have to coordinate complex stunt work and CGI for the brutal combat scenes, which will likely prolong the pre-production and filming stages. All these factors mean that, while progress in 2025 is exciting, we need to remain patient. Creative Team Deep Dive. The Gears of War adaptation is backed by a creative team with some serious pedigree, which bodes well for the movie's quality. Let's take a close look at the key players and what they each bring to the table. John Spaihts as the screenwriter. Spaihts has been tapped to write the Gears of War movie, and he comes with an impressive resume in the science fiction and action genres. Spaihts co-wrote the screenplay for the 2021 Dune movie and its sequel, Dune Part 2, alongside director Denis Villeneuve. His work on Dune earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay, which shows his ability to adapt complex source material for the screen. Spaihts is also known for penning Ridley Scott's Prometheus, a dense sci-fi horror film, and he contributed to Marvel's Doctor Strange in 2016, so that man has a lot of range, from cerebral sci-fi to fun comic book action. When Netflix announced Spaihts as the writer, he expressed genuine enthusiasm for the Gears universe. In a statement, Spaihts wrote, "Gears of War is one of the all-time great action games, with vivid characters, a beautifully designed world, and a combat system that drives home the lethality of war and the importance of standing by your squad mates. It wants to be cinema, and I'm thrilled to have the chance to help that happen. This gives us confidence that Spaihts understands what makes the game special, the camaraderie, the rich world building, and the visceral warfare, and that he intends to translate that to the film." David Leitch as the director. On the directing front, David Leitch's involvement is another huge asset. Leitch has carved out a niche as one of Hollywood's top action filmmakers. He actually began his career as a stunt coordinator and performer, and was even an uncredited co-director on the first John Wick film, which speaks to his deep understanding of action choreography. He made his solo directorial debut with Atomic Blonde in 2017, a stylish spy thriller loaded with inventive fight sequences. He followed that up with major hits like Deadpool 2 in 2018, where he blended irreverent comedy with elaborate action, and Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, where he handled large-scale set pieces and large-scale actors, both literally and metaphorically. Most recently, Leitch directed Bullet Train and the action comedy Fall Guy. In short, he's well-versed in both hand-to-hand combat scenes and big explosive spectacles. What's particularly exciting about Leitch directing Gears of War is that this project will let him venture into a type of action he hasn't tackled before. As Kelly McCormick explained, it's an opportunity for David to do a war film, which he hasn't gotten to do yet, and a bit of sci-fi in his own way with this beloved IP. Leitch is known for his creative fight choreography and visually dynamic style, so personally, we're eager to see how he handles the full-on military sci-fi battles that Gears demands. With trench warfare against monsters, intense gunfights, and horror-tinged battle sequences, Gears of War will challenge Leitch to apply his action expertise on a grand scale. Given his track record, he's likely up to the task, bringing both authenticity and flair to the film's many combat scenes. Casting speculation and wish list. One of the liveliest topics about the Gears of War movie right now is casting. Who will portray these iconic characters on screen? As of late 2025, Netflix hasn't announced any official casting decisions, but that hasn't stopped rampant speculation and fan dreaming. At the forefront of almost every discussion is Dave Bautista as the top choice to play Marcus Phoenix. Bautista, a former WWE wrestler turned actor, has been vocal for years about his desire to play Marcus, and many fans wholeheartedly support the idea. In fact, Bautista's campaigning is part of Gears lore at this point. He even released a video in full Marcus Phoenix armor back in 2019 as a promotional tie-in, where he appeared as a playable character in Gears 5. That clip basically served as his informal audition, and it set the internet abuzz with how perfect he looked as a COG soldier. Ever since, the rallying cry among a huge portion of the fan base has been that Bautista is Marcus Phoenix. Beyond Bautista, fans have floated other casting wish lists for the rest of Delta Squad. For Marcus's best friend, Dom Santiago, names like Oscar Isaac and John Bernthal sometimes come up in fan forums due to their ability to portray tough and loyal characters. The wisecracking engineer Damon Baird has prompted fan casts from Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling, both of whom would be bringing the humor, to Glenn Howerton. While the larger-than-life Augustus Coltrane Cole often gets people mentioning former football player turned actor Lester Speight, who actually voiced Cole in the games, or perhaps even Terry Crews for his physicality. theatricality and charisma. It's all speculation for now, but it shows how passionate the community is and that they have strong opinions on who could embody these great characters. But as we said, no casting has been confirmed by Netflix, and the producers have stayed quiet about any wish lists of their own. This silence is partly because the script is still being written. The team likely wants a finished script and a director's vision in place before they choose the actors who best fit the roles. Creator support for Bautista. The fan demand for Dave Bautista as Marcus Phoenix isn't just one-sided. You see, it has a major endorsement from none other than Cliff Bleszinski, the original creator and designer of Gears of War. Cliffy B has voiced his support for Bautista to take on the role of Marcus, which carries a lot of weight given his legacy as the father of Gears. In a 2023 interview, Bleszinski admitted that Bautista changed his mind on something important. Initially, years ago, Bleszinski wasn't keen on the idea of a professional wrestler playing Marcus Phoenix. Marcus, as Bleszinski once described, is a character akin to Bruce Willis in Die Hard, a tough everyman who gets battered and bruised. The concern was that casting a wrestler might turn Marcus into a caricature or just emphasize brawn over depth. However, Bautista has proven himself as more than just a wrestler turned actor. He's shown genuine acting range in a variety of roles, and Bleszinski has taken notice. Bautista has emerged from the pro wrestling circuit and has shown his range in Blade Runner 2049, Knock at the Cabin, and Guardians of the Galaxy, Bleszinski said, referencing the actor's performances in both dramatic and comedic parts. Bautista brought a quiet dignity to his role in Blade Runner 2049 and carried emotional weight in M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin, on top of being universally loved as the hilarious Drax in the Marvel films, and hopefully those roles will push viewers to follow him to his next movie, because there's no dearth of Marvel fans, right? The other thing that delighted Bleszinski was Bautista's eagerness for the Marcus role, so much so that he cosplayed as Marcus Phoenix. Bleszinski noted that Bautista literally did that cosplay. He's wearing the armor that he posted on social media, which shows the actor's dedication and understanding of the character's look, and if nothing else, he really wants to do it. Bleszinski has publicly stated, "Bautista has my full support to play Marcus Phoenix in the film." Coming from the creator of the franchise, that's high praise indeed. Franchise development plans. Netflix clearly sees Gears of War as more than just a one-off movie. In fact, they're looking at it as a potential franchise universe. When Netflix announced this project in late 2022, the plan included multiple projects to flesh out the Gears world on screen. First and foremost is the live-action feature film, the one we've been discussing, currently in development with David Leitch directing. Alongside that, Netflix also revealed an adult animated series set in the Gears of War universe. This animated series is intended to complement the live-action movie by exploring stories that might be impractical for a single film or delving into different aspects of the lore. We don't have plot details on the animated series yet, and in fact, since its announcement, there hasn't been any significant public updates on it, but its very existence shows Netflix's confidence in the property. Animated series have worked well for other game franchises, Netflix's own Castlevania series being a prime example of this, so Gears of War will follow that trend with an adult-oriented animated adaptation that can capture the game's intense and dark tone in a different medium. Furthermore, Netflix hinted that there could be additional stories to follow if these initial projects succeed. In other words, if the first film is a hit and there's strong viewership for Gears content, Netflix would likely greenlight more installments, potentially sequels to the live-action film, spin-offs focusing on other characters, or even additional seasons or miniseries in animation or live-action formats. The Gears of War game series itself spans multiple installments and has rich lore complete with prequel stories, side missions, a whole expanded universe of novels, and even some comics. Yeah, comics. So, there's plenty of material to mine. The idea seems to be establishing a Gears of War universe on Netflix, similar to how the streaming service handled The Witcher, with a main live-action series and animated films and series expanding the backstory. Historical context and previous attempts. The journey to get Gears of War onto the big screen is a saga almost as lengthy and full of twists and turns as a Gears campaign mission. Hollywood has been attempting to make a Gears of War movie for well over a decade, and the project has seen numerous ups and downs before landing at Netflix. The first serious push for a Gears of War film dates back to 2007. At that time, the game franchise was a fresh new hit. Yeah, the original game came out in 2006 and made a huge splash, or a wave rather. Anyways, years. New Line Cinema picked up the film rights in 2007 with big plans. They attached director Len Wiseman, known for the Underworld series and the then-recent Live Free or Die Hard, to helm the project. The initial vision was pretty huge, as New Line aimed to have a blockbuster Gears of War movie in theaters by 2010. However, as that target date approached, the project hit major hurdles. One significant issue was the budget. The scope of Gears of War, that is, a post-apocalyptic war against giant monsters, was always going to be effects-heavy and expensive. New Line reportedly had budgeted well over $100 million for it, but as often happens when bean counters looked at the balance sheet, the studio got cold feet about spending that much. They decided to slash the budget to a much lower number, which forced a drastic downscaling of the project's concept. This didn't sit well with Wiseman, who had envisioned an epic war film. With the project shrinking in ambition, Wiseman eventually departed the director's chair, and by around 2010, the New Line incarnation of Gears of War essentially fell apart. In Hollywood terms, it entered development hell, where it would linger for years. The movie went quiet for a while after that, but the idea never fully died. In 2013, there were renewed whispers of a Gears film, this time tied to the release of the fourth game in the series, which would eventually be Gears of War 4 in 2016. The concept floated around 2013 was to do a movie set in the universe of Gears of War rather than a direct adaptation of the original game's storyline. This implied maybe a side story or a new set of characters within the same world, which could have been interesting. However, this attempt also struggled to gain traction. It was an era when video game movies still hadn't proven their worth at the box office, and Gears' previous false start likely made studios wary. That 2013 project quietly dissolved as well, never making it to production. Then, in the late 2010s, Microsoft, which owns Xbox and the Gears IP at this point, still wanted to see a movie happen, but it needed the right partner, which is when Netflix entered the conversation in 2022. With Netflix aggressively investing in video game adaptations, the streaming giant made a deal to acquire the rights to Gears of War. In November 2022, Netflix officially announced that it was developing two Gears of War projects, as we mentioned, a live-action film and an adult animated series. This was the most concrete movement the adaptation had seen in years, effectively reviving it from dormancy. Following the Netflix acquisition, things started moving quickly in terms of assembling talent. By early 2023, we got news that John Spaihts was hired to write the screenplay. Then, in the first half of 2025, it was revealed that David Leitch was in talks and later confirmed to direct. Technical and creative vision. Bringing Gears of War to life in a new medium comes with the crucial challenge of maintaining that core essence and authenticity of the games so that the film satisfies longtime fans while also appealing to newcomers and those who haven't played the game. The creative team has indicated that they are very mindful of what makes Gears distinct, and they intend to carry those elements into the movie. Let's take a look at some key aspects of the technical and creative vision that we expect and hope to see. Brotherhood and heart in a grim world. At its core, Gears of War isn't just about big guns and ugly monsters, right? It's about the brotherhood between soldiers who have only each other to rely on amid apocalyptic circumstances. The film will aim to capture the camaraderie and emotional bonds that Marcus, Dom, Cole, Baird, and the others share. Their banter and loyalty, even in the face of constant danger, give the story a heart that balances the darkness. We can anticipate scenes that highlight this fellowship. Getting the audience to care about the squad is as important as showing the action, and the writers and actors will need to emphasize those relationships. Spaihts' comment about the importance of standing by your squad mates shows that this theme is front of mind in the script. Melancholic, desperate tone. Gears of War has a very specific tone, a mix of bombastic action and somber, desperate atmosphere. The world of Sarah in the film should feel lived in and war-ravaged. Expect the cinematography and production design to lean into some really bleak visuals, like collapsed cities, muddy trenches, and dimly lit underground tunnels glowing with emergency amber light. The games often evoke a sense of weight and tragedy. The movie will likely mirror this by not being a lighthearted romp. It should feel more like a war horror movie, more Saving Private Ryan's meets Aliens than a typical superhero action flick. That means the creative vision will include moments of tension, dread, and the heaviness of a nearly lost war. It's important the film not shy away from the darker, more tragic elements of the story, and the stakes need to be truly existential for humanity, just like in the games. Brutal, visceral combat with signature weapons. Of course, a Gears of War adaptation must deliver on the action in a big way. For instance, The Lancer assault rifle with its chainsaw bayonet is practically a character in itself. We absolutely expect to see and hear that chainsaw rev up on the screen, slicing through a locust drone amid sprays of alien blood. Gears' signature gore and visceral combat must be present. The filmmakers will need to choreograph intense firefights that capture the cover-based shootouts of the game. We would stand in a queue and pay to see Marcus and Dom crashing into cover behind a crumbling wall while bullets from locust machine guns or mulchers chew up the stone, or a desperate last stand as the team holds the perimeter against incoming waves of locust grubs. David Leitch's experience with stunt work is a huge plus here. He can give the action a physical, gritty feel. The combat should be up close and personal, not sterile or from a distance. Expect creative kills and the use of the entire Gears arsenal, from the Nasher shotgun for brutal close quarters to the snub pistol for sidearms. Maybe even the awesome and deadly torque bow and boom shot will make appearances. Given the franchise's reputation, the film will likely be R-rated, or at least push the limits of PG-13, and let's be honest, it needs to be as unflinching and bone-crunching as the source material to feel authentic. Horror elements and the locust threat. While Gears is an action shooter, it has roots in horror, and those roots go pretty deep, like way underground. After all, the main enemies are nightmarish creatures emerging from below the Earth's crust. The film's creative vision will incorporate horror elements, especially whenever the locust horde is on screen. The locusts aren't human. They're massive reptilian humanoids with disturbing features, and they often use shock tactics like bursting out of the ground without warning or creeping in the dark. Scenes set in the Hollow, or the locust's underground layers, or in other equally eerie and high-stakes locales like abandoned factories and midnight jungles should bring genuine suspense. We may see tense sequences of COG soldiers exploring claustrophobic tunnels with flickering lights, aware that something could attack from just about any shadow. The visual effects team will have to design the locusts carefully in order to make them realistic and frightening. Challenges and opportunities. As the Gears of War movie marches ahead in development, it faces a set of challenges and opportunities that will shape its ultimate success. So let's take a look at a few of these. Competition and timing. We already touched on this in the production timeline section, so there's not much else to add, but yeah, the film will be arriving in a climate where video game adaptations are booming on various platforms. By 2025 and 2026, audiences will have seen a lot of high-profile game adaptations, from the acclaimed The Last of Us on HBO to Amazon's Fallout series, and even films like Super Mario Bros. And the Mortal Kombat sequel doing big numbers. The opportunity here is that the stigma around video game movies has started to lift, since studios have seen that faithful, well-produced adaptations can draw huge audiences and even critical praise. Gears of War can ride that wave of goodwill. However, the challenge is that it needs to distinguish itself. The post-apocalyptic or dystopian science fiction space will be crowded, to say the least. Budget and scale consideration. From a production standpoint, budget is a major factor. Previous attempts faltered when budgets were cut, telling us all that Gears isn't a story you can do cheaply. The film will require a significant budget to get the necessary effects. Netflix has been known to spend big on tentpole projects. They invested heavily in films like The Gray Man and Red Notice, so hopefully they're prepared to do the same for Gears of War. The challenge is ensuring that that money is spent wisely, on quality VFX, on set pieces that matter to the story, and on good actors, not wasted on fluff. If the budget is sufficient, the opportunity is that Gears of War could look every bit as impressive as a theatrical blockbuster, drawing in not just fans but general viewers who enjoy epic action. Fan expectations and pressure. Few fandoms are as enthusiastic and particular as Gears of War's is. The dedicated fan base has a very clear idea of what they want to see, and meeting these expectations is a challenge the filmmakers can't ignore. Casting is an obvious pressure point. As we discussed, many fans are basically expecting Dave Bautista to be Marcus Phoenix. If Netflix ends up casting someone else, they'll have to be prepared to justify that choice and win fans over with an outstanding performance or a big-name star. Likewise, fans have favorite moments from the games. For example, the emotional Dom story arc or Coltrane's heroics, and they'll be looking for nods to those moments, or at least a faithful tonal recreation of them. There's also the matter of the game's militaristic aesthetic and mature content. Fans don't want a watered-down PG version of Gears. Look what happened to the sequel of Arnold's Conan movie. They watered it down, and the film ended up assassinating the franchise for good, so much so that even Khal Drogo couldn't revive it. But then again, the Khal couldn't do much to protect himself either. Anyways, the point is that the expectation is for R-rated intensity, and if the movie were to, say, tone down that violence or remove the chainsaw scenes, there'd be problems to be faced. Opportunity for a new audience. While pleasing existing fans is crucial, the film also has a chance to expand Gears of War's popularity. Not everyone has played the games, which peaked in popularity a decade or so ago. A successful Netflix movie could introduce the rich world of Sarah and the Gears characters to an entirely new audience who maybe don't game but love science fiction action. If well executed, Gears of War could become a cross-media franchise with its own identity, much like how The Witcher soared in mainstream awareness after the Netflix series. Marvelous verdict. The movie has scope. Together, Spaihts and Leitch form a legendary action duo and have the potential to drive the project. Spaihts provides narrative depth and respect for the source material, while Leitch provides the kinetic energy and visual punch. They're being supported by producer Kelly McCormick, who has produced several of Leitch's films and understands the action genre well, and more importantly, by the Coalition, the creators of the games. This melding of Hollywood talent with the game's creators suggests a creative team that's both respectful of Gears' roots and eager to deliver a fresh cinematic experience. If creative and monetary freedom is provided, this team could have liftoff. Unfortunately, that's all we got for you this time, but if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.